Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. Bangladesh President dissolves Parliament, says interim government to be formed. India keeps a close watch. UN calls for calm and restraint. India's President Draupadi Murmu conferred with the highest civilian award of Fiji, the Companion of the Order of Fiji. Addressing the Parliament of Fiji, says India is ready to engage with Fiji on all fronts. Iran says it doesn't want regional escalation but must punish Israel for the Hamas chief's bombing. US says all parties must refrain from escalation. Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu in Tehran. After Monday mayhem, relative calm returns at Asian bourses. Japanese stocks rebound sharply in early trade after a huge sell-off in the previous session. Nikkei climbs past 34,000 mark, rallying over 8%. And in sports, Armand Duplantis sets a new world record of 6.25 meters after winning gold in the men's pole vault at the Paris Olympics. An update from neighbouring Bangladesh first. Bangladesh President Mohammad Shahabuddin has announced that an interim government would be formed as soon as possible after dissolving the national parliament. He made the announcement in a televised address to the nation on Monday night, hours after Sheikh Hasina left Bangladesh after resigning as Prime Minister. The president said the decision was taken at a meeting with leaders of different political parties, civil society, representatives and other stakeholders. Chiefs of three forces were present at the meeting. The Bangladesh president said the interim government would conduct the next general election as soon as possible to transfer power to an elected government. President Shahabuddin also ordered the release of all students arrested during the ongoing protests. Bangladesh Army Chief Waqar-uz-Zaman will meet with the representatives of the students and teachers on Tuesday. India is closely monitoring the developments in Bangladesh. The Border Security Force has issued a high alert to all units along the India-Bangladesh border following recent developments in the neighbouring nation. In the wake of emerging situation, Air India on Monday cancelled the scheduled operation of flights to and from Dhaka with immediate effect and stated that they are continuously monitoring the situation. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina tendered her resignation on Monday and left the country. After Hasina left the country, many people entered the Ghana Bhavan, the residence of the Prime Minister. According to media reports, people were seen decamping with various items from public buildings. A crowd was also noticed inside the Parliament building and people were seen taking things from inside the Parliament building as well. The United Nations has called for restraint and urged that formation of an interim government in South Asian nation be democratic after Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled the country. UN Secretary General has urged calm and restraint by all sides and emphasized the importance of a peaceful, orderly and democratic transition.
We're watching the situation in the country very closely. We continue to call for calm and restraint and to urge all parties to respect the right to peaceful assembly and expression. We urge security forces to protect those out on the streets of Dhaka and other cities of Bangladesh. You'll have seen that the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, issued a statement yesterday in which he called for violence in the country to stop. He added that accountability for human rights violations, including those with superior and command responsibility, is crucial. The international community must make it clear that at this pivotal time, there will be no impunity.
All right, indeed, India's Jessica Taneja joins us to give us more information on this. Good morning, Jessica. A lot has happened since yesterday. What is the latest update that you are getting for us?
Well, if you see how the protests have turned out since the weekend on Sunday, more than 100 people died, and that sort of have turned the picture around for our neighboring country, Bangladesh. And you saw how Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, of course, arrived and is now preparing to seek asylum. And those plans, of course, remain further undisclosed as to what decisions is she going to take. But in the recent past and as of today, the visuals that came in yesterday as well of the protesters storming into her residence after she left, of course, looting and ransacking, and of course, parts of the country which have witnessed violence in small places where the police had been heavy-handed with the protesters, and that is how things got literally out of control. And more than 300 people have died so far in these protests. As for the evening, when the announcements were made by the army chief, Rahman, who had said that there would be an interim government in place and peace would prevail soon in Dhaka, you saw thousands of protesters on the street.
Yeah.
So it was important to address their concerns as well. And one of their primary concern or the demand being that Sheikh Hasina resign, and that she did yesterday. So this should create some ease on the streets, as the army has said that it won't use force against its own citizens. So that should come as a relief. But the picture still remains grim, because not just Dhaka, but many parts of the country witnessed violent protests and clashes that led to killings and taking of a lot of innocent lives.
Okay. Jessica, now it's been over a month since the country is on a boil, and there were different demands by the protesters. What was it this time around, Jessica, that got them to the streets again? Same old demand of removing quota system, or there's more to it?
Well, they moved beyond the demand for the quota system because that was taken care by the Supreme Court, where it had scrapped the bill that was initially passed by the High Court. So the legal bit of it was taken care of, and the students were assured that the quota bill will not be presented in the form that the Hasina government had intended to, and in fact made heavy changes in the quota and the job reservation bill that was passed, where 93% was moved to the general category. And even that was contentious because the composition of that seemed to have created some sort of controversy as well, but reduced the quota for the family members or the relatives of the freedom fighters of the liberation war in 71. That quota had been reduced to nearly 5%, with the 2% remaining for women and minorities and for the specially abled. Now, that was not the point of contention where this turned rather ugly in matter of hours. What did eventually change was there was initially a 9-point demand by the protesters, where the protesters initially being the students who had come out on the streets about a month ago, demanding that there be a fair system of job distribution, given the kind of demographic data you're looking at this country. Now remember, Bangladesh, 40% of the population, that is between 15 to 20 years, is unemployed. And joblessness was a massive issue in a country which is witnessing an inflation of 20%. So things not looking good at this point. But those 9-point demands included, beyond just removal of Sheikh Hasina as Prime Minister, it also demanded that students be ensured that they're not harassed after the quota demand has been scrapped. They be allowed to go back to university. They were demanding resignations of cabinet members, a lot of different ministers, including the education minister, health minister, the law minister. They were also demanding the removal of university officials. So there were comprehensive demands by these protesters, but eventually it boiled down to one. And once that was achieved, there seemed to have been some calm. But the protesters say the injustices done to them and the students that lost their lives, that bit is what picked up for the last wave of movement. And of course, many were also fishing in troubled waters. As you see in Bangladesh, if you've seen the history of Bangladesh, student protests are not new, particularly from Dhaka University. We've seen that in many decades, and especially since the 5 decades that Bangladesh gained its independence. So, of course, situation remains grim, but the protesters have seemed to got one of their important demands. But will they continue to be out in the streets despite the assurances by the president and no less than the army chief, suggesting that the army will not use force against its own citizens and will ensure that justice is brought in sooner?
Well, certainly, Jessica, situation is grim, and protesters, like you just said, they are saying that injustice is, done to them. But the visuals that we are seeing on the screen is unbelievable. I mean, after Sheikh Hasina left the country, people barged into her residence and also parliament. Now, Jessica, what information do you have as far as the interim government in the country is concerned?
Right, and as soon as the army chief had announced that an interim government will be in place, we're seeing a lot of reports coming out, although unconfirmed, as to how this pans out. What I've been able to pick up so far from various media reports is that the interim government at this point does not include any meetings that have been happening right now from the Awami League. Now, Awami League is the one that was Sheikh Hasina's party and was the current ruling dispensation. And you've seen the kind of anger of protesters against Awami League and its senior members. Their houses have been torched. Many of the ministers' homes have been ransacked again, apart from the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina herself. And of course, statues have been vandalized by the freedom fighters in the country. That has sort of created a very different image of Bangladesh from what it used to be. Given the kind of current circumstances we're looking at, it could be possible that, and there have been suggestions, in fact, being put out there, that you could have meetings with the BNP, which is the Bangladesh National Party. Their leaders are in a meeting. I'm not too sure about how much is the involvement of Jamaat in the government formation at this point. But there are again unconfirmed reports suggesting that they have something planned of their own. Apart from that, professors and senior officials of the Dhaka University are also part of the government formation, the interim government, which will be in place for 3 months according to the Bangladesh Constitution. That would ensure some stability till the elections are held after 3 months. And also what we're hearing is an eminent jurist who previously also saw the UN efforts of Bangladesh. Former Supreme Court Justice could also be part of this government formation. But these are just initial reports, but New Delhi will be watching closely if there are any radical elements who now will take center stage in Bangladeshi politics and try to stir trouble for India, especially when there has been so much investment in projects. Otherwise, in the recent past, between India and the kind of infrastructure development, both in the energy and the connectivity sectors that India had put forth. So India will be watching very closely if there will be other elements that try to fish in troubled waters and create more trouble in the neighborhood.
Okay, Jessica, can you just tell us, you've just told us that what all is being done in the country. Can you just shed some light on what is being done to calm down the crowd? Internet facilities have been completely stopped in the country. What else is being done, to bring back the normalcy to some state?
Well, first an address from the army chief and then by the president seemed to have quieted things down a little bit when it comes to protests on the street. But the anger, of course, is not going to die down very soon, as the protesters are resolute in their demands as to what they really want at this point is some form of political stability. A country whose GDP was growing at an average of 6.5 per annum was pretty satisfied with its economic uptake. But with so many people without jobs, there was a certainty that this would sort of transcend into something which would not create normalcy for a very long time. But now it is up to the interim government and whether that interim government formation is acceptable with the student protesters, the ones who initially got out on the streets. But there are also reports that the protests have been, foiled, and there have been radical elements who are trying to take control of the protest in order to sort of create some sort of disturbance. But only time will tell whether this government formation and this new normalcy is acceptable with the people or not.
Well, in fact, Jessica, Bangladesh President Mohammad Shahabuddin has announced that an interim government would be formed as soon as possible after dissolving the national parliament. But thank you so much for your analysis. We'll keep taking updates from you since this is developing. Well, the World Bank on Monday said it was assessing the impact of events in Bangladesh on its loan program with the country. The World Bank's board in June approved 2 projects totaling $900 million to help Bangladesh strengthen fiscal and financial sector policies and improve urban infrastructure to ensure sustainable and climate-resistant growth. All right, and still to come on DD India News Hour. U.S. Democratic candidate Kamala Harris campaigned to announce a vice presidential running mate ahead of the pair's first campaign rally. Storm Debbie churned toward Georgia and Carolinas, drenching northern Florida. Amidst deforestation's ill effects on climate change, studies suggest degradation in the Amazon rainforest also may be equally or even more damaging to the climate.
We have with us shooter Arjun Babuta. You ended 4th in this edition of Paris Games. What do you have to say about your performance?
I just finished 4th and it is very close to the medal pace, but overall I try my best and I'm proud of it. I belong to a middle class family and it was very challenging for us to get all these expensive equipments and to maintain those expenses. I'm very thankful to TOPS for all this, and it played a big role in my success.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Amid growing concerns about the risk of an Iranian attack on Israel, US President Joe Biden held talks with his national security team on Monday. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris were briefed by the national security team on the situation in West Asia, including threats posed by Iran and its proxies to Israel and US service members. They were also briefed about an attack on Iraq's Al-Assad airbase on Monday and discussed the US response. Biden and Harris were also updated on US efforts to support Israel military if it's attacked and diplomatic efforts to de-escalate regional tension and reach a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said escalation in the West Asia is not in anyone's interest. Blinken said that US was engaged in intense diplomacy to help calm tensions amid fears Iran is preparing a retaliatory strike against Israel. During a signing ceremony with his Australian counterpart in Washington, Blinken said all parties must refrain from escalation. Blinken, in his remarks, also called for parties to break the cycle of violence and agree a ceasefire in the Gaza conflict. The US Secretary of State said, and I quote, "It's urgent that all parties make the right choices in the hours and days ahead," unquote. At least 5 US personnel were wounded in an attack on Iraq's Al-Assad airbase on Monday. The suspected rocket attack took place at US and coalition forces at Al-Assad airbase. According to security sources, 2 Katyusha rockets were fired at the base in western Iraq. The attack comes as much of the West Asia remains on high alert. As tensions rise in West Asia, tens of thousands of foreign nationals are trying to leave Lebanon following warnings from a number of embassies. With Iran and its proxies threatening to attack neighboring Israel, Many international airlines have suspended their services to the Lebanese capital, Beirut, prompting a scramble from foreign nationals to try and secure a seat out. From Beirut, DD India's Trent Murray has more.
Well, there's been long lines at Beirut International Airport as tens of thousands of foreign nationals here heed their respective governments' advice and try to leave this country as concerns grow. It could be on the brink of seeing a major war. We know a number of embassies have issued urgent warnings for people to leave, but it's just not that simple because there's not that many airlines flying here anymore. Certainly the European carriers, the big ones like British Airways, Lufthansa, Air France have all suspended their services. There really is only a handful of airlines now left from the Middle East, including Qatar, Emirates, Egypt Air and Turkish that are still flying here. But for people trying to leave, securing a seat is very difficult. Demand is exceeding capacity. The flights are sold out for many days ahead, and they're also incredibly expensive. So we do know that there is some concern amongst Western governments in particular about what would happen if a conflict was to break out while people were still here and unable to leave. Back in 2006, when this country saw a war with Israel, then Beirut International Airport was bombed by the Israelis and was taken out of service. Given it's the only airport in the country, that left foreign governments with the difficult task of actually trying to evacuate people via the sea on ships and ferries to neighbouring Cyprus. Of course, we know some of that contingency planning is taking place right now. We can verify that based on what US and other officials are saying in different embassies, but they are hoping that it won't come to that. They're hoping that either tensions can be subsided or foreign nationals can get out still using commercial services. But it does really come at a time where tensions do still remain high. The rhetoric continues to be ratcheted up. And we know both Iran and Lebanon's-based Hezbollah are continuing to send a strong signal that a big attack on Israel is still coming. Trent Murray for DD India, Beirut.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke to Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant to reaffirm U.S. commitment to Israel's defense from threats posed by Iran, Lebanese Hezbollah and other Iran-aligned militia groups. Both the leaders agreed the attack from Iran-aligned militias on U.S. forces stationed at Al-Assad Air Base in western Iraq marked a dangerous escalation. During the conversation, Austin updated Minister Gallant on measures to strengthen U.S. military posture in light of this escalating situation. Well, Iran's president called for expanded relations with Russia as he spoke with a senior Russian official. Sergei Shoigu, the secretary of Russia's Security Council, met Iran's president and top security officials as Tehran weighs its response to killing of Hamas's political bureau chief, Ismail Haniyeh. Russia condemned the killing of Haniyeh and called on all parties to refrain from steps that could tip the West Asia into a wider regional war. Iran's president said that shared positions between Iran and Russia in prompting a multipolar world will certainly lead to greater global security and peace. U.S. Democratic candidate Kamala Harris is expected to announce her vice presidential pick in the coming hours ahead of pair's first campaign rally. Harris has reportedly cut her pool of possible running mates down to just 2. As Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Well, we thought Monday was going to be the day when Vice President Kamala Harris announced her vice presidential pick. However, that was not the case, that announcement being pushed back to Tuesday. It's not clear still what form that announcement will take. Remember, when Joe Biden announced his vice president, Kamala Harris, back in 2000, he did it in an email that was quickly followed up by a video. And the thinking is that we could see something similar, an email to supporters, a video put on various social media platforms. But of course, all of that will come before the late Tuesday afternoon rally that Kamala Harris and her vice presidential pick will be holding in the city of Philadelphia in the important swing state of Pennsylvania. Now, it seems as if her cast of about 6 or 7 candidates has now been whittled down to just 2. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro and Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor. Those seem to be the final 2 in contention. We know that they had meetings with Kamala Harris, interviews over the course of the weekend at her private residence in Washington, D.C., and it really is now a wait-and-see situation. We know that after that rally on Tuesday, the 2 of them will then embark on a tour of about 6 or 7 other swing states, the likes of Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, all places that could make or break her chances of winning the election in November. So a crucial decision ahead. It's still not clear if she has finally made it or if that's something that she'll come to the decision on Tuesday morning, ahead of informing the public of who she wants to be her running mate for the 2024 election. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
And US Secretary of Defence Lloyd Austin met with Australia's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Defence Richard Marles at the Pentagon. Secretary Austin and Deputy Prime Minister Marles underscored the importance of advancing defence ties with regional allies and partners in support of shared vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific. Today, the 2 officials will join US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Australian Minister for Foreign Affairs Penny Wong for the 34th Australia-US Ministerial Consultations in Annapolis, Maryland.
Deeply grateful for American leadership in those parts of the world and the globe generally. You have been a force of nature, I mean you personally, in terms of your presence in the Indo-Pacific, as you've just said. I've made this point a number of times. Of all my international counterparts, you're the person I have seen the most. And there's got to be probably another 20 defence ministers around the world who would say that about you personally. And it says an enormous amount about the extent to which you have carried America's place in the world. And we're really grateful for that.
An airplane made an emergency landing on a golf course in Sacramento, California on Sunday. Footages captured in the security camera showed the plane skidding across a putting green, narrowly missing a bystander. No casualty was reported and the pilot escaped with just a cut on his hand. According to local media, the pilot reported a mechanical failure while flying at about 400 feet and urgently sought a safe landing spot. And tropical storm Debbie drenched northern Florida on Monday and killed at least 6 people as the downgraded hurricane churned towards Georgia and the Carolinas, threatening a week of torrential downpours and flooding across the region. The slow-moving storm plowed into Florida's Gulf Coast as a Category 1 hurricane, making landfall near Steinhatchee, about 70 miles southeast of Tallahassee. Roughly 240,000 customers were without power in Florida. Hundreds of flights originating from and heading to Florida airports were cancelled on Monday. The 4th named storm of the season is also forecast to soak Georgia and South Carolina in the days ahead. While deforestation has long been recognized as a significant contributor to climate change, recent studies suggest that other forms of degradation in the Amazon rainforest may be equally or even more damaging to climate. These forms of degradation include selective logging, forest fires, and the fragmentation of forest landscapes, which can have a severe impact on the ecosystem. The removal of key trees can open the forest canopy, increasing exposure to sunlight and drying out the forest floor. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India to host the first BIMSTEC Business Summit in the national capital to foster greater regional collaboration through robust trade and investment. The IMD issues an orange alert for several northeastern and western states, predicting severe rainfall. The Indian Air Force hosts the first phase of Tarang Shakti, a multinational exercise.
issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of the headlines. Bangladesh President dissolves Parliament, says interim government to be formed. India keeps a close watch. UN calls for calm and restraint. India's President Draupadi Murmu conferred with the highest civilian award of Fiji, the Companion of the Order of Fiji. Addressing the Parliament of Fiji, she said India is ready to engage with Fiji on all fronts. Iran says it doesn't want regional escalation but must punish Israel for the Hamas chief's bombing. US says all parties must refrain from escalation. Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu in Tehran. After Monday mayhem, relative calm returns at Asian bourses. Japanese stocks rebound sharply in early trade after huge sell-off in the previous session. Nikkei climbs past 34,000 mark, rallying over 8%. And in sports, Armand Duplantis sets a new world record of 6.25 meters after winning gold in the men's pole vault at the Paris Olympics. India's President Draupadi Murmu arrived in Suva, the capital of Fiji, on the first leg of her three-nation visit. President Murmu was received by Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka of Fiji at the airport and accorded a ceremonial welcome by the Republic of Fiji military force. She is the first Indian president to visit Fiji. Earlier, school children in capital Suva were all filled with excitement as they cheered and waved flags to welcome President Draupadi Murmu. Children were seen in large numbers welcoming the Indian president by waving their hands. After an affectionate welcome by children on her way from airport, a traditional welcome ceremony was organized in honor of President Draupadi Murmu in presence of Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka of Fiji. Fiji President conferred the Companion of the Order of Fiji upon President of India, Draupadi Murmu, on Tuesday. This is the highest civilian award of Fiji. President Murmu said that this honor is a reflection of the deep ties of friendship between India and Fiji. Highlighting strong relations between India and Fiji, India's President Draupadi Murmu, while addressing the Parliament of Fiji, said that India is ready to engage with Fiji on all fronts.
10 years ago, speaking in this same hall, Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, had underlined some basic values that unite India and Fiji. These include our democracy, the diversity of our societies, our creed that all human beings are equal, and our commitment to the liberty, dignity, and rights of every individual. These shared values are eternal and shall continue to guide us ahead.
As India completes 75 years of diplomatic relations with Fiji, President Murmu praised the high level of engagement between the two countries.
As we celebrate the 75 years of India's diplomatic presence in Fiji, I am pleased to see the strong growth in our high-level engagements, development projects, and our people-centric activities. In the last 18 months alone, 15 ministerial-level visits have taken place on both the sides. The historic meeting of both our Prime Ministers in May 2023 during the FIPIC 3 summit has given new energy and direction to our bilateral ties.
President Murmu further reiterated both countries' commitment to fight against climate change and to work towards sustainable development.
Also conscious of the many serious challenges common to us, the foremost one being the fight against climate change and the rise in sea level, which is a threat to many ocean states. Under our G20 presidency last year, we have high priority to the two topics of sustainable development and climate change. We made One Earth, One Family, One Future the theme of our G20 presidency.
And India will host the first Bay of Bengal initiative for multi-sectoral technical and economic cooperation business summit in the national capital on Tuesday. The business summit will be inaugurated by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, and other union ministers will deliver a keynote addresses. The first edition of Business Summit aims to foster greater regional collaboration through robust trade and investment relations among the member countries of BIMSTEC. The event will bring together more than 300 key stakeholders from across the Bay of Bengal region to facilitate economic collaboration and explore ways ahead in focus areas such as trade facilitation, regional connectivity, energy security, inclusive growth and sustainable development. India is hosting its first multinational air exercise Tarang Shakti 2024 from Tuesday in southern state of Tamil Nadu. In the exercise, nearly 30 countries will be participating, and out of 30, 10 countries will join the exercise with their fighter aircraft. The exercise is being conducted in two phases, which aims to showcase India's defence prowess and provide a platform for participating militaries to foster interoperability. The Tarang Shakti will achieve these objectives through the participation of different countries. It will be achieved through the successful completion of intricate operations involving the accomplishment of different missions by participating countries, thus improving different capabilities simultaneously. Five years to the day after India abrogated Article 370 of its constitution, restoration of peace and developmental activities stand out as its most significant achievements in Jammu and Kashmir. The past 5 years have seen remarkable transformation of Jammu and Kashmir. DD India's Sakal Bhatt reports.
मैं मानता हूं कि जम्मू कश्मीर में एक लंबे रक्तपात भरे युग का अंत धारा 370 के समाप्त होने से
Unfolding the remarkable transformation of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, abrogation of Article 370 not only marked endgame of separatism and terrorism in the region, but also a big shift from terror to transformation. Kashmir of India has embraced this change with open arms.
जब से मोदी सरकार की हुकूमत आई है तब से बहुत राहत हमें मिली है. हमें कोई टेंशन नहीं है. जो पिछले 30 सालों में हो रहा था वो सब बदल गए हैं. कोई पथराव नहीं है, कोई हड़ताल नहीं है.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has, dedicated to healing the wounds that were afflicted upon Kashmiris, that afflicted the hearts and minds of Kashmiris due to the misguided decisions taken after independence. So I feel that as we embark on the future journey, we expect a similar unwavering approach from the Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led government, so that we see a peaceful and prosperous Jammu and Kashmir.
The erstwhile terror and stone pelting infested zones are now bustling with normalcy. Generations privy to the years of terrorism and turmoil speak of semblance of normalcy witnessed in last 5 years.
आज से 5 साल पहले की बात करें, डाउनटाउन में चलना बड़ा मुश्किल था। डाउनटाउन के दुकान वाले बहुत परेशान थे, स्टोन पेल्टिंग होती रहती थी। लेकिन अगर हम आज के दौर की बात करें, डाउनटाउन का हर कोई यूथ अभी अपनी लाइफ को स्मूथली चला रहा है।
There has been a drastic uptick in tourist footfall and trade as well.
I have seen a lot of change in the last 5 years. Before, it was very difficult to do business in Kashmir Valley due to stone pelting, strikes, curfews, and now things has been really changed, and we are thankful to God. And because of the government, they have really taken a good action about those incidents, and we are very, very thankful to the government of India.
पहले पथराव होता है, कर्फ्यू होता था, टूरिस्ट नहीं आता था। अब इन 5 सालों में बहुत फर्क आ गया है। अभी टूरिस्ट भी बहुत आ रहा है और लोग भी अच्छे कमाई हो रहा है और शिकारा भी सब लोग कमाते हैं, होटल वाले, हाउस बोट वाले सब कमाते हैं।
Local inhabitants of Kashmir also speak of the powerful shift in lives of students, signifying the profound impact on education and its continuity.
4-5 साल से अगर हम देखें तो बहुत ही बेहतरीन रहा है। कुछ कर्फ्यू नहीं है, कोई पत्थरबाजी नहीं है, कोई बच्चा डरता नहीं है, अच्छे से स्कूल जाता है, कंटिन्यूसली स्कूल जाता है, कॉलेज अगर देखें तो कंटिन्यूसली ऑन रहते हैं।
Kashmir now thrives on newfound peace and progress, a clear transition from shadows of uncertainty and decades of stagnation characterized by shutdowns. All that is history now.
यहाँ की जो चेंज है वो विजिबल है। जब आप कश्मीर में 5 साल पहले की बात करेंगे, स्ट्राइक्स की आप बात करें, स्टोन पेल्टिंग की बात करें, इवन मिलिटेंसी की बात करें, वो ग्राफ पूरी तरह से जीरो पे आ चुका है।
In a big turnaround of ground situation post-abrogation of Article 370, as per Government of India, there has been 70% decline in total terrorism-related cases, an 81% reduction in civilian deaths, and a 48% decrease in casualties of security forces. The current scenario is a testament to the resilience and transformation of a region that has embraced peace wholeheartedly. Sakal Bhatt's report for DD India.
Weather update from across India now. The India Meteorological Department issued an orange alert for the states of Manipur, Mizoram, Gujarat, Sikkim, West Bengal, Nagaland, Tripura, Assam, Meghalaya, Maharashtra and Rajasthan, predicting severe rainfall. The Met Department has stated that monsoon conditions will stay active over central and adjoining northwest India for the next 2 days. The temperature in national capital is likely to hover between 26 to 25 degrees Celsius. According to IMD, the sky will be mostly cloudy. There will be very little rain, thunderstorms and strong surface winds. West Madhya Pradesh is likely to receive heavy rainfall in coming days. In the meantime, there will be rain in Goa and Konkan regions. And let's take a look at other stories making news. A first ever all-women mountaineering team of the Border Security Force flagged off from Delhi for an expedition to scale at 7,130-meter peak located in Uttarakhand. The contingent of 12 female mountaineers are aiming, in fact, to scale the Mount Mukut East and unfurl the national and the forces flags on the summit. Amid heightened security, another batch of Amarnath Yatra pilgrims departs from Pantha Chowk, Srinagar base camp for Baltal and Pahalgam routes under heightened security measures. The Amarnath Yatra commenced on June 29 and will conclude on August 19. On the occasion of 78th Independence Day, the nation will witness the celebrations from Red Fort in New Delhi in the presence of special guests from across India. These guests are specially invited to the capital to witness the hoisting of the national flag by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Special guests, including representatives from farmer producer organizations, have been invited for celebrations. And still to come on DD India News Hour. The Reserve Bank of India to begin its bi-monthly fiscal policy meeting to decide the benchmark interest rate and the path ahead for Indian economy. A US judge ruled that Google violated antitrust law. Stay with us to know the entire matter. We'll show you a unique and delightful spectacle as California organizes dog surface competition.
We have with us shooter Arjun Bapihuta. You ended fourth in this edition of Paris Games. What do you have to say about your performance?
I just finished fourth and it is very close to the medal pace, but overall I try my best and I'm proud of it. I belong to a middle class family and it was very challenging for us to get all these expensive equipments and to maintain those expenses. I'm very thankful to Tops for all this, and it played a big role in my success.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Time now for business. And Asian share markets were hoping for a relief rally on Tuesday as futures pointed to an opening bounce on hard-hit Nikkei, and central bank officials said all the right things to soothe market nerves. Japanese stocks rebounded sharply in early trade on Tuesday after their biggest single-day rout since the 1987 Black Monday sell-off in the previous session. The Nikkei climbed past the 34,000 mark shortly after trading opened, rallying over 8%. The Nikkei plunged 12.4% on Monday in its worst performance since the October 1987 crash, as investors were shaken by last week's plunge in global stock markets, US recession risks and worries that investments funded by a cheap yen were being unwound. The Reserve Bank of India is scheduled to begin its bi-monthly fiscal policy meeting on Tuesday. The regulator's Monetary Policy Committee to hold a meeting to decide the benchmark interest rate and the path ahead for the Indian economy. The bi-monthly meeting, headed by RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das, to be held from August 6 to 8. The last time the central bank hiked the repo rate was in February 2023. Ever since, the committee has maintained the status quo on the key rates. Governor Shaktikanta Das is likely to announce the committee's decision on August 8. Well, a US judge has ruled Google acted illegally to crush its competition and maintain a monopoly on online search and related advertising. The landmark decision on Monday is a major blow to Alphabet, Google's parent company, and could reshape how technology giants do business. Google was sued by the US Department of Justice in 2020 over its control of about 90% of online search market. It is one of several lawsuits that have been filed against the big tech companies as US antitrust authorities attempt to strengthen competition in the industry. It is unclear yet what penalties Google and Alphabet will face as a result of the decision. The fines or other remedies will be decided in a future hearing. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for sport. Legendary Sweden's Armand Duplantis has set a new world record height of 6.25 meters after winning gold in men's pole vault at the Paris Olympics on Monday. The 24-year-old had secured successive Olympic titles by clearing 6 meters. He has also set a new Olympic record of 6.1 meters. Meanwhile, he improved his world best of 6.24 meters that he set in April by 1 centimeter at his third and final attempt. This is the 9th time Duplantis has broken the world record. The day 10 for Indian contingent at Paris was a mix of emotions as shuttler Lakshya Sen suffered heartbreaking loss, while women's table tennis team beat Romania to reach quarterfinals. Narayan Singh has more from Paris.
It was a day of heartbreak for the Indian contingent at the Paris Games. First, we talk about the badminton, where Lakshya Sen lost the bronze medal match against the Malaysian shuttler Lee. Lakshya started the game on a fantastic note. He won the first game, and in the second game too, he was leading, but he failed to continue that momentum, and the Malaysian shuttler Lee bounced back and won the match against our shuttler Lakshya. Talking about the other sports, especially the way our women's PT team played, they won the quarterfinal match against Romania and booked their berth in the next round. And talking about shooting, in the mixed skeet event, where Anantjeet Singh Naruka and Maheshwari Chauhan again lost a match that was the bronze medal match, and they too finished fourth. So we can say that finishing fourth is definitely a heartbreak for not only for the athletes but for everyone. So we are hoping that this small margins and small fractions of points will definitely, our athletes will look on it, and they will try to just gap this margin and convert those margins into medals.
Meanwhile, former Indian badminton player Prakash Padukone praised Lakshya Sen for his performance at Olympics, but he added the Indian shuttler needs to work on his game.
He played well, but of course I'm a little disappointed. He couldn't finish it. Yesterday also he was in a winning position in the first game. It would have probably made a difference yesterday itself. Today also, I think after winning the first, he was leading 8-3 in the second. So he's always been a little uncomfortable playing on the faster side, from the faster side, or playing with the wind. So I think he needs to work a little more on that.
Well, the Indian contingent will hope to turn things in their favour with a packed schedule lined up on Tuesday. Men's table tennis team will start the proceedings of the day with their round of 16 game, while Neeraj Chopra will also be in action in the men's javelin qualification event. DD India's Narayan Singh has more.
A new day starts with a new hope for the Indian contingent at the Paris Olympics, and Neeraj Chopra along with Kishore Kumar Jaina will begin their campaign with qualification in the men's javelin throw event at the Paris Games. Neeraj will be hoping once again for a one-and-done show. All athletes meeting the qualification standard of the 84-meter or at least 12 best performers advance to the final. After Kishore and Neeraj's Asian Games 1-2 finish, both will be hoping to reach the final in the Paris together again. While Kishore has struggled for the form, Neeraj enters the field as one of the contenders again. So hope both of them will perform their best in this Paris Games tournament. Talking about hockey, it will be Germany versus India, the rematch of the bronze medal contest that India won famously in the Tokyo Games. Harmanpreet Singh's men take on reigning world champions Germany, what promises to be another tough contest. India will be without the suspended Amit Rohidas. So it's going to be, we can say, a tough match, but India played fantastic hockey throughout the tournament. Talking about wrestling, in the 50 kg category, Vinesh Fogart will be there, and she has endured a tough, heartbreaking Olympic campaigns in the past, but managed to qualify for the Paris by going down to the 50 kg. But she faces a massive test against the defending champion. Now talking about the table tennis, Manika Batra and company began their campaign with a 3-2 win against Romania to reach quarterfinals, but the men's team faced a huge task to follow the suit as they begin their campaign against mighty Chinese team. So we are hoping that today Indian team will continue, we can say the Neeraj Chopra especially, and with Kishore Jaina, the good work done by them in the Asian Games here, and other athletes will also do some good work so that India can increase their medal tally in the Paris Games.
India's Avinash Sable qualified for the final round of men's 3,000-meter steeplechase on Monday night, finishing on the 5th spot. The Indian athlete started the race strongly, being at the front for the first 1,000 meters. However, he fell behind his opponents afterwards. Despite facing a slight hiccup in one of the hurdles, he finished at 5th position and advanced through to the final round. In Sully, California, a unique and delightful spectacle takes place annually as dogs and their owners hit the waves in a dog surfing competition. This event, often held at Huntington Beach, showcases the talents of canines riding surfboards accompanied by their human companions. It's a celebration of surf culture and the bond between pets and their owners, attracting crowds of spectators and participants from all over. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.